If you're looking for horsepower, look at Chevy Silverado, because Silverado has the most powerful V8 of any 4x4 pickup. More powerful than Dodge, more powerful than Ford, 300 horsepower. Silverado from Chevy.
Today we have an opportunity to look at some very important trucks, and the timing of this video is significant because the Silverado goes back 25 years to this first generation, and the Silverado name actually goes back almost 50 years to 1975 when it was a trim level. But here we have in front of us a 25-year-old 1999 Chevy Silverado 1500. This is the first generation of the Silverado being its own model in the GMT800 generation. This is a vehicle that we have a lot of experience with, as do many of us, because these trucks were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. This was a hugely important vehicle, and now that it's been around for multiple generations, we also have behind us a brand new Silverado and the Silverado EV. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at how much these trucks have changed over the last 25 years, and we're going to get out and drive all of them. Now the GMT800, this 1999 that we're looking at, this is a privately owned truck by a local guy named Bruce. And it's cool seeing one in this condition, especially out here in Michigan, where GM is hosting us, because it's not common. Paint on this truck is in really nice condition. Still a vehicle that gets used, but it's been very well taken care of. And there's a lot of folks that bought these brand new and still have them because there's something special about the GMT 800 generation. They ride really well. They're incredibly hardworking. Of course, they didn't only make pickup truck versions of the GMT 800. You could also get an SUV, and they had a lot of cool technology. You could get them with a 4.3 liter V6, you get a 4.8 liter V8, 5.3, 6 liter, even the 8.1 V8, or a 6.6 liter Duramax, again on some of the 2500s. Some of these trucks also had quadra-steer, but popping inside, we get to see one of the things that made these iconic vehicles, because they've got a very basic but hardworking interior. This is back when these trucks, very easy to work on, very easy to maintain. And I think all of us have memories of these vehicles because, again, they were everywhere. My dad had a GMT 800 GMC Yukon that we used as a family vehicle. I think just about everyone either had one in their family or knew somebody that had one. They've sold tons of these vehicles, but as cool as the old truck is, we gotta see how this one drives, and then check out how much it's changed with the new truck. Driving the GMT 800, these trucks don't have as much power as the new trucks, not as many gears in the transmission, but they sound good. And these are very reliable, long-lived, easy to maintain trucks that give you everything you need and nothing that you don't. They're simple, they're comfortable, they're very maintainable. And it looks like this truck actually has about 170,000 miles, but it's clearly a well-maintained example. This interior is in good condition. It's held up really well, surprisingly well. I have a second-gen Cummins, so I love old single-cab trucks like this, but my dash is one of the few that's in good condition, and I've got some rust spots. This truck coming out of Michigan has survived really well. And on the new trucks, the capability has moved on, the payload, all of the specs, everything that you want in the truck, it's gotten better over time, but there's something about a good old school single cab truck like this with a long bed that still has a lot of appeal.
Introducing the all-new Chevy Silverado. It's the official truck of calloused hands and elbow grease. The official truck for getting to work and getting to work. The all-new Chevy Silverado. The strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. It's the official truck of real people.
Now this current generation of the Silverado came around in 2019, and these trucks got a little bit of an update in 2022, so they've been around for a little while, but GM has kept a lot of the things that have made the Silverado good for such a long time. They're one of the few that don't seem to be really trying to phase out the V8s. This particular Silverado is spec'd with the big bad 6.2 liter V8, so of course base, you can get a 5.3 V8, 355 horsepower, not bad, 383 pound-feet of torque. The 6.2, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. But my favorite option on these trucks is the 3-liter Duramax. That gets you 305 horsepower, so not the most amount of horsepower, but 495 pound-feet of torque, so a lot of torque. And you get up to 624 miles of range. In fact, Nathan and I drove cross-country, and we went and made basically the entire trip on one tank of fuel. So having that Duramax option is really nice. You can also get the Silverado ZR2 with selectable front and rear lockers. And then you can see how much the truck itself has changed, especially along the interior. So we have a power running board that flips down. We've got very nice materials, big screens, a lot of technology, just the sheer amount of space that we get here in the back seat, as well as the creature comforts. Now this is a high country, so this is a pretty well-optioned truck. So we've got things like heated seats here in the rear, very spacious. I'm about 5'10", so I'm not the biggest guy at the office, but plenty of headroom. What isn't as common today is a long bed. So this truck does have a slightly shorter bed, but this truck has a ton of tie downs, 3 in each corner. You can also use this whole portion of the tailgate as a step as well, if you want to make it a little bit easier to get into the bed. And if you don't want to use that for getting into the bed, if it takes maybe too long, then you can use the little step that's built into the bumper as well. Now, one thing that is not missing on these new trucks is that V8 rumble, nor is it missing the power. The acceleration on these trucks, not that that's what trucks are all about, but it's still nice to have, especially with the 6.2. Even if you get the base 5.3, you still got a healthy sized, healthy power output V8 as your base engine. And then you can opt for the 6.2 if you want that extra power. This truck's got a really nice sound to it, but still my personal favorite is that 3-liter Duramax. It's an impressively smooth engine for a diesel, which is something that just didn't exist back in the day. The words smooth and diesel didn't used to go together, but they do on that 3-liter Duramax, as well as a lot of new diesels, but that 3-liter, really nice. The capability of this truck is also greatly improved. A lot of towing capability, a lot of storage. Having a 4-seater in this day and age is what most people want, like it or not. And this truck's configuration and its interior features make it a really good daily driver. We've got nice, big, high-resolution screens. They're very bright. They're quick to respond. And we've got a lot of buttons. There is more complexity in this truck, but we've still got physical buttons for your climate control. We've got heated and ventilated seats in this model. I've even got a heated steering wheel. So on this cold Michigan day, my hands are warm. It makes it a really easy truck if you want to daily drive it. And these days, I think a lot of people that are out there buying a pickup truck are buying them as a daily driver. Bed is still big enough to move around the stuff that most people want to move around on a day-to-day basis, if anything at all. But you've got that rear seat so that you can bring your kids to school. You can take friends with you to dinner, whatever you need to do, even just throw your backpack in the back seat so that it doesn't have to be sliding around in the bed and exposed to the elements. So these trucks have come a long way. They have added a lot of complexity to them, but they've also become much more comfortable and much more capable. The thing that's been true of these trucks for a long time, even going back to that 99, is that the ride is really comfortable. This truck has an independent front suspension, so did that GMT800. And yeah, this truck rides really, really well. There's a lot of trucks that going back to the 90s and even the 2000s didn't ride nearly as well as their newer counterparts, but I would say even going back to a GMT800, those trucks were very comfortable.
The first ever all-electric Chevy Silverado RST with a multi-flex midgate for extra storage. And an available 400 miles of range on a full charge. EVs for everyone, everywhere. Chevrolet.
And finally, arguably on the most cutting-edge side of the Silverado lineup is this Silverado EV, specifically this RST model. These trucks have some pretty impressive specs. 760 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot. Also a massive battery, over 200 kilowatt hours. And because of that, this truck is very substantial. If you look at the wheels, you'll see that this is an 8-lug truck, putting it in the realm of HD trucks. About 10,000 pounds of towing, also a decent sized bed. But what I think is very cool on these trucks is one of the things that GM brought back to expand your bed. So if we flip this forward, flip the seats down, then at the push of a button, I can actually open up the midgate and expand this bed. Also back there in the bed, we've got outlets to let you tap into some of that power. And then up front, a very space age cockpit. We've got big screens, big sunroof, a lot of technology. I actually did a towing test with Andre, pulling a 6,500 pound trailer, and we did 232 miles of towing on a charge. Granted, charging when you're hooked up to a trailer is still not ideal at most charging stations. Something else worth noting on the Silverado EV is as you unlock it, we have this greeting with the lighting, and then we can pop open the front portion of the truck to use as additional storage. This is the same for like the Hummer EV and the Sierra EV, but you've got some extra space to keep your things if you want to keep that separate from whatever it is that you're putting in the cab and in the bed. It's just nice to make use of that extra space. Now, getting moving in the Silverado EV, I apologize, Zach, behind the camera. If I accelerate, whoa! This is a big truck. It's very heavy, but it accelerates, if that wasn't obvious by the 760 horsepower figure. It's a very powerful truck, but also very substantial. This vehicle is huge, but it's got a lot of technology. One of the best pieces of technology on this truck and on any highly optioned GM truck is Super Cruise. You can tell it's got Super Cruise, this model, because we've got this bar at the top of the steering wheel. Super Cruise is a really advanced system to steer and self-drive these trucks that you can even use when hooked up to a trailer, which is pretty impressive. They can perform lane changes. It's a nice thing to have, especially if you're doing a long road trip on highways that are not very interesting to drive. And a long road trip you can on one of these trucks. 200 kilowatt hour battery, no matter how fast you charge, and this does have the capability of charging very fast, but it's always going to take a little while. But as much as 460 miles of range is what these are rated for, so you can drive for a while before you need to stop. Now, one of the things with these trucks is that they are pretty expensive. Starting MSRP on any Silverado EV, lowest you're going to find is around $73,000, and you can get some incentives to bring that down a little bit realistically for the amount that you'll actually end up paying. But a lot of these trucks are pretty pricey. If you live in a place that's got tighter streets, then this behemoth might not be the best pick. If you live in Manhattan, for example, I don't even know if they let you own a car in Manhattan, but if they do, certainly this would not be the one. If you have bigger roads, then it would be fine. This is a huge vehicle. Does have rear wheel steering, which helps a little bit with maneuverability, but there's no getting around the massive size of it. One of this truck's cool party tricks is because it has rear steering, which you can switch off if you want to, but because it has rear steering, you can do something funky called Sidewinder mode. When you click it, get this very dramatic animation, and this is kind of like the GMC Hummer's crab walk mode. But now what happens is if I turn the wheel, we sort of dance from side to side. It's a very strange feeling if you've never done it before, which I suppose could potentially be useful, maybe more so than strictly being useful. It's just an interesting thing you can do. Because this vehicle has rear wheel steering, why not give you the capability to tap into it in a different way? It feels strange though. So over the last 25 years, the Silverado has changed dramatically, and over the 50 almost years since the Silverado name first came about, even more so. These trucks are a lot more sophisticated, a lot more powerful than they used to be, and they've got a lot more capability, more comfort, more technology. And if you still want something simple and old school, there's still a lot of GMT800s out there that you could go buy. Even in the best of condition, you could find a nice GMT800 for 10 grand or less. And they're great trucks. They're still very usable today. They've aged pretty well. I am in the camp of some of those people that long for those more simple, old school trucks. And again, luckily, there's no shortage of them available to buy. But if you want something that is objectively more comfortable, more sophisticated, and more capable in just about every way, other than maybe being able to get a single cab and a long bed in a still pretty compact truck that's not got a huge footprint, you might want to go for a GMT800 in that case. But short of that, these trucks have come a long way. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Which of the trucks that we looked at today would you pick for your own garage? That's all for this video, and we'll see you in the next.